Everybody, welcome to this webinar. We're going to just take a couple moments here to let people get situated, join us, and then we will jump into valuation as a service powered by Inveniam. So thank you very much for joining us. And if you are just joining, if you've got comments that you want to ask questions of the guests or just share comments, you can just do that by putting the comments in the comment section, either on YouTube or LinkedIn, depending on how you're watching us. And then we'll be able to put those up on screen and ask our guests. So give us just a few moments here and we will jump in and get started. All right, gentlemen, let's. Hello and welcome to Valuation as a Service for Private Market Assets powered by Inveniam. We are going to share with you today how we are revolutionizing the private market asset industry here at Inveniam and with some partners, including Apex as well. So got three special guests. I'll kind of give you an idea of what the overview is going to be. And again, if you're just joining us, we do welcome your comments and you can put those in either YouTube and or LinkedIn. So I'm the host of a podcast called Sound DeFi. My name is Chris Berg. So thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. We look forward to your questions and comments as we go through here. Many of you probably aware of all the capital that is flowing into the private market assets. So we're going to have Michael Nadeau. He is the Director of Ecosystem Strategy at Inveniam. He's going to give an overview today of what exactly is happening within the private market asset industry and where he sees things going as well. Another very special guest is going to be Elaine Chim. She's the Global Head of Product Closed-Ended Funds at Apex Group. So Inveniam and Apex Group have got a partnership now with this Valuation as a Service powered by Inveniam. So Elaine's going to visit with you about how this service is solving problems for Apex and some of their clients as well. And then also Scott Landers, he's the Director of Product Management for Valuation as a Service at Inveniam. One of the things I'm very, very excited about today is that he's going to give us an actual demonstration of how this service works. And I say all that because I think where this is headed is really, really powerful and important. And Michael Nadeau is going to give us an overview of that. So Mike, thanks for joining us today. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Chris, and I appreciate you steering the conversation as usual. So if we want to bring up the slides here, I think that would help. So just going to kind of set the stage here a little bit. I think we're going to get into some more details. Scott's going to give us a demo, as Chris mentioned, and we're going to get some perspective from Elaine and Apex's clients as well. But just want to kind of set the framework and kind of some of the trends that we've been seeing in the private markets of late. I think when most people think about markets and trading and assets, they tend to think about the public markets. We think about the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, but actually the private markets are much larger than the public markets. So if you look at the right side of the screen here, we can kind of see the three different sectors, the private equity, private debt, and private real estate. And you can see that, private equity is 4.5 times the size of the public equity markets. Private debt, 2.5 times the size of the public debt markets. And then when you get to real estate, 32 times the size of the public real estate markets. So you've got hundreds of trillions of dollars of assets in the private markets. Not only are they much larger than the public markets, but they're actually growing faster than the public markets as well. So if you look at the left side here, we can see that, since really kind of the period after the Great Recession, we've seen this separation in terms of the net asset value of private market assets versus the public markets. So much larger markets, growing faster, and we can kind of start to think about, why is this trend in place? So we can go to the next slide here, please, Chris. So we always like to know, why is this stuff happening? So I think what we've been looking at Inveniam is, if you go back to 2012, we had the Jobs Act was put into place. And at the time, this was really a mechanism to help small and medium-sized firms access capital without going through all of the regulatory hurdles that a typical company would have to go through with registering with the SEC and going through all those channels. So this really birthed the age of crowdfunding on the internet. So the internet is this incredible distribution mechanism. This is allowing small and medium-sized companies to go out to the markets, raise capital, and do so without going through the onerous process of registering with the SEC and all the regulatory hurdles. So we've really seen kind of a drop-off in the number of publicly listed companies as a result of kind of the Jobs Act and some of these other factors here. The other thing that we look at is just sort of the macroeconomic picture. So if you look at the right side, pretty basic chart here, just showing, total, debt to GDP. That's the blue line going up and to the right. And then you have kind of the inverse of that with the red line, and that's just the Fed funds interest rate. And so there's kind of a general trend here as debt increases, interest rates are dropping. Low interest rates allow, people to really kind of go out, borrow money, and buy up assets that they think are going to outpace inflation, such as real estate, for example. So we've seen, we think these two trends are really kind of forcing investors further and further into the private markets. So we can go to the next slide, please, Chris. So that's kind of the quantitative on kind of what's happening with the private markets from really kind of a high level. And then if we look at the qualitative and some of the trends that we see just with some of the large players in the market, we're seeing less activity in the public markets. And a lot of these firms, they make up a lot of their economic activity is coming from those markets. They're starting to pivot away and see all the opportunity in the private markets. So BlackRock, for example, is now advising a 50-30-20 portfolio allocation, moving away from that traditional 60-40 allocation, with 20% of those assets going to alternative private markets. JP Morgan, largest commercial bank in the world, they have launched something called Project Bloom. This is a platform for funding and secondary trading of private companies, again, moving into private markets. The DTCC handles most of the post-trade clearing and settlement in the United States and also globally. They have launched an initiative to build a platform to modernize and digitize private market assets. The plan is to use Ethereum for that platform initially, and they may also use some private blockchains as well. You've got Bain and Company advising that private markets are going to drive the adoption of digital assets in the coming years. And then you look at like the London Stock Exchange, for example. Again, less activity in public markets. They're seeing the opportunity in the private markets, and similar to JP Morgan, going out, building a platform to allow for private companies funding and secondary trading. And then just recently we saw KKR, a large investment firm, partner with Securitize and the Avalanche blockchain to enable investors to access some of the funds on their platform. So, and then obviously I'd be remiss not to mention just Apex Group, Inveniam's partner. Apex manages upwards of $3 trillion of assets, partnering with Inveniam on valuations and service to bring price discovery to some of these funds and to hopefully enable some liquid trading of these funds. So we can move to the next slide here, Chris. Thank you. So we have all these trends in place. We've got the quantitative, the qualitative, but there's still this big problem with private markets. And what we can see here is just, this is from 2020, the public markets, we saw about $1.4 trillion of capital raised in the public markets. The private markets did twice that figure. But in terms of actual secondary trading, the public markets are doing 330,000 times more secondary trading than the private markets. So you have these massive, massive markets. You have all this opportunity in these markets, but we still have this issue where there's no liquidity. There's very little secondary trading. And so it's really been Inveniam's thesis from the start that you can't make private markets more liquid without better data first. And that's really what Valuations as a Service provides. So I know Scott's going to get into the demo here, but Chris, I'm going to pass it back to you I think we're going to hear from Elaine as well.
Yes, we're going to bring her in here in just a moment. So, Michael, thank you very much for that. Again, Michael Nato, he is the Director of Ecosystem Strategy at Inveniam. If you've got any questions or comments, you can just put them in your YouTube or LinkedIn, depending on where you're watching. They will pop up and we can bring them up on the screen for comments and or questions for our guests. So join us now as well. We're going to bring her into the stream here and give her a chance to talk about this partnership between Apex Group and Inveniam. Elaine Chim, she's the Global Head of Product Close-Ended Funds at Apex Group. Elaine, it's great to have you with us. And we had a great conversation with your Chief Innovation Officer, George Archibald, recently, talking about what valuation as a service powered by Inveniam is going to mean for Apex. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with private asset valuations today, and how does this hopefully help solve that?
Thank you, Chris. It all comes down to data. So really accessibility, transparency, auditability, and organization of the massive data that goes into a valuation process. So particularly in the low frequency trading private market assets. What we find is a key challenge for a lot of the managers we work with is the general manual nature of the valuation process. So typically very resource heavy. There's usually challenges around lack of auditable and timely data being received. And usually that dependency is on the underlying portfolio company. And even once the data inputs are received, there is a need to validate and check and recheck potentially data again and again to ensure it's accurate for the purpose of feeding valuation models. And so we're finding managers are essentially running antiquated spreadsheet exercises using Excel as a key part of the process. So that I would say is a main challenge today.
Wow, still using Excel. Elaine, thank you for that. I guess when you think about going from Excel to valuation as a service powered by Inveniam, where do you see the market going, and what's going to be the role of fintech companies such as Inveniam in this solution?
So with our partnership with Inveniam and working with a cutting edge fintech platform like Inveniam, utilizing AI, utilizing blockchain technology to provide credentialized and secure data in an ecosystem that can then be used to facilitate valuation, it's really paving the way for where the market is going, which is using digital technology to transform operational inefficiencies, and through that, arguably provide greater transparency and options for liquidity, to Michael's point earlier. Another key factor to bear in mind is fee pressure, right? GPs are facing increased scrutiny from their own LPs to lower management fees, for example. And the key to achieve that is to run cost-effective operations. And because of these factors that we're finding, the forward-thinking managers are looking to digitize core functions, of which valuation is clearly one of them, in order to improve operational efficiencies and therefore margins through tech adoption. We're finding in partnership with Inveniam, the clients who are using the platform as a data operating system have benefited greatly from technology through increased efficiency, cost reduction, greater transparency, and being able to face off to the increased scrutiny from the LPs, which again can lead to more frequent valuations and arguably better decision making. And as a service provider, we are constantly thinking of ways to add value by taking away some of the burdensome tasks away from our clients. And traditionally, any pre-valuation work tended to have been the sole responsibility of the manager and our clients. With this technology and our access to resources globally and the infrastructure that we have, we are reshaping the way we work with clients, particularly focused on adding value in perhaps the earlier part of the valuation cycle. So it's really about streamlining the whole valuation process from the asset level, working with the portfolio companies, all the way through to the fund and up to the investor level reporting, both in our capacity as the fund administrator and also in providing valuation review and oversight in our capacity as a depository for our client. So it really does, again, fall into our overall objective as a group, which is truly to become that single source provider who can better support our clients locally and globally.
Elaine, great stuff. Thank you so much for the information and the insight. I appreciate that. And now we get a chance to get a demonstration. Scott Landers is going to jump in here in a moment. He's the Director of Product Management for Valuation as a Service powered by Inveniam. So let's bring Scott in here, give him a chance to take controls. And Scott, welcome. We appreciate it. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you for the introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. Assuming everyone can see the page that I'm on, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of our platform and our valuation as a service. I really like the points that Michael and Elaine made before. And I think valuation as a service, as you'll see, is a great solution to the illiquidity problem of private markets, but also the issues that GPs and fund managers are having today that Elaine described. So right now I'm just logged into the system. I pulled up the Chicago Multifamily Real Estate Fund. And right now we're just looking at the dashboard page, right? So this is what we call the deal overview. These are all live data elements that are extracted either from appraisal documents or other source documents provided by ownership. Scrolling down, we have a schedule of investments. So at the fund or portfolio level, we can see the assets that make up the fund, and we can link and click into each of them. So I just clicked into that first asset on the schedule of investments, 5710 North Winthrop, which just pulled up here, the Fairchild Towers asset. You'll see that this deal overview looks a little bit different. It's a little bit more filled out. You would imagine that's because there's a lot of asset level data that doesn't necessarily roll up to the fund. So just another quick demonstration of the customizability and flexibility of the platform. We have a schedule of investments option as well. So if there are assets that fall under this property, you can tag these as well. So if you wanted to tag your mortgage, for example, or anything else, you could do that right here as well at the asset level. We have an automated workflow. I'm not going to get into the specific rules that we set up here, but the idea of the automated workflow is to allow the user to go through their work without having to worry about updating anything in the system. And scrolling down, we have what we call our workflow items, right? So the first is our calendar view. So we can very quickly see what's going on when. I can click on any date and see what tasks are going to occur on that specified date and the status of those tasks. So I can see everything is already done. And then we have a to-do list view. So this is a very granular level workflow set of items, very flexible set of just phases, groups, and tasks that can be customized for really any business purpose. But for valuation as a service, we're setting this up to walk through the valuation process, right? So high level, we're going to link the documents. So any source documents we want for this period in time. And you'll see these little green tags here next to the documents. And so if I click on one of these, you'll see we actually have two blockchains. So we have Ethereum and Quantum Ledger connected to this asset, and each one of these are verified. And so what we're doing, every document Inveniam looks at, we're generating this checksum, this long list of alphanumeric characters using a SHA-256 algorithm. That's a very long way of saying we're generating a digital fingerprint, right? So this is the digital fingerprint identification of this document. So we anchor this checksum and this URL to blockchain and nothing else. That allows us to do two things. Number one, we're going to preserve the golden copy. So you can always check your document against this checksum and ensure that you have the golden copy. This checksum is generated at the pixelated level. So if one pixel changes in your document, such as, the color of one letter of one word changes, this checksum will be different. And this verify tag will be changed to a change document tag. And you'll be notified immediately that there's been a change to your document. So in this way, Inveniam can preserve what we call a proof of state. I can prove the state of my asset because I can prove the document and the data set behind the asset at any point in time. So we're going to go through, we're going to link any document that is important for this period. We're going to populate our deal fields. We're going to create this workflow, and we're going to get our client approval. I'm going to show a few other configuration options, and then I'm going to come back to this workflow and finish the valuation as a service story. So as we're onboarding assets, we're going to go to this apps and integration sections here, which is going to allow us to do, number one, connect to a blockchain. So we have a multitude of blockchains available to be able to connect to today. Again, I've only chosen 2 for this demonstration, but I have a number of others that I could connect to, including the Accumulate protocol, which is coming out in the next couple of weeks. Here at Inveniam, we're blockchain agnostic, so we don't care which blockchain you use as long as you use one. That's a way, again, for you to validate your proof of stake. And we're blockchain promiscuous, so we do promote you using more than one blockchain at a time. Again, we're at the precipice of this industry, so knowing which blockchain is going to last the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years is a guessing game. So the best way for you to preserve your data is to use more than one. We can connect to tokenization platforms. So today, if you have a token tokenized by tokening, we can connect to that. And we have a whole laundry list of other tokenization platforms that we're integrating with as well. The last part of the onboarding process is configuring our data room. And so our data room is what we call a federated data room or a multi-cloud API. Again, it's a very fancy way of saying that this data is not actually on Inveniam. This is being held at the Fairchild Towers data store. This happens to be an Amazon S3 data store, but we could also connect multiple data stores. So we can connect another Amazon S3 bucket, we can connect SFTP, we can connect Box, and we have SharePoint and OneDrive coming soon. If you have another specific data store need, please let the product team know and we'll work on it. So now that I've gone through, I've configured the system, I've onboarded the asset, the first thing we're going to do as part of valuation as a service is create what we call pre-valuation data artifacts. So this is data points that the appraiser needs in order to conduct their valuation. So the first is income and expenses. So this is going to be an extraction of the income statement for the asset. And so what we're going to do is really three tasks inside of this workflow. So the first thing we're going to do is create what we call at Inveniam a task space. What we're doing is we're attaching documents that we want extracted. So we're basically saying we want these 2 income statements extracted. We have a trailing 12-month, we have a 2020 income statement. And then we're also going to link the task space within our application that we call AI Assist. AI Assist is our application we use for data extraction. So we're going to extract the data out of this document as well as preserve all of the clickable audit trails through it. So I have my 2020 income statement as well as my trailing 12-month here that I can flip through. I can see all the data elements that we've extracted in these yellow highlights, and I can very quickly see where these data elements were extracted from. So our responsible party is going to go into this task space, complete this within AI Assist. This is a data extraction platform. Again, we have AI models built on top of it, learning exactly where all these data elements are extracted from and actually suggest what the answer should be. And over time, that gets smarter and smarter. So the first task, we've created the task space. I'm going to keep moving here. We're going to then run the extraction. So once this is completed and we've gotten our approval, we're going to then go ahead and export that artifact. Whenever we export an artifact, we're going to export it in 2 forms. So we're going to export it in an Excel that's usable by people like me and you. And then we're going to export a JSON that's used by machines and computers. So if you wanted to send this data via API into another program or another software solution, this JSON document is what's going to enable you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to open up this financial document. While this is loading, I'm going to go back through the workflow. And again, if it takes 5, 10 seconds, 15 seconds for a document to load, that's because this is not actually stored on Inveniam. So we're, again, going through that S3 bucket, retrieving that file, and then we're going to display it within Inveniam. I do want to point out this is actually an Excel document that we're viewing like a PDF. So if I want to actually use it like an Excel document, I'm just going to hit the download button right here, and it's going to pop up. I'm going to open this, and I also want to point out on the screen in the file info pane, we have the checksum available to you, right? So that entire process, we're trying to convey transparency as much as possible. So we're gonna run this process for the income statement as well as the rent roll as well. With the rent roll, because of our data extraction technology, We're actually going to run this off of, this is a multifamily asset. So we were given a master lease, basically one giant PDF with every lease in it for one period of time. So we're actually going to generate this based off of the master lease rather than making a carbon copy of the rent roll itself. I'm going to open up this last task here and just open up the deliverable and then go ahead and download that as well so we can look at the rent roll and the income statement together. So while this is downloading, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my income statement and show you just really quickly a few pretty interesting features. So number one, we can brand this for a specific company or organization. We just threw the Inveniam and asset owners logo on this one. We can also embed calculations. So for this example, we've embedded a diff calculation. So that way the appraiser can very quickly see what the trends look like between periods. If I hover over a data point, you will see a link that actually pulls up. And so what that means, if I click that link, it's actually going to pull up AI Assist. It's going to go to the record where we extracted that data point. It's going to go to the document. So that was the 2020 income statement. And it's going to snap and show you exactly what data point you just audited, right? So it just, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. But we just boxed in this data point right here, right? And then while we're in the application, we can go ahead and audit anything else that we might want to, such as the total rental income or any other data point that we see here. So once we have our pre-valuation artifacts done, we're going to sync these to the data lab. This is a data artifacts tab right here, which is housing the JSON documents. It's showing you what documents these are based off of. And this is the area where if you want to send your data via API, that's the tab where you're going to do it. So anytime we get a JSON document, we also activate it through our data artifacts tab as well. And then for this demonstration, we also included a phase for our Argus underwriting. So typically the appraiser is going to be the one to actually create the Argus model. But to show how they're doing it, we included that in this demonstration as well. So this first task is to upload the template. So I'm going to open this right here as well. But Argus has a whole suite of input templates available through their XL480W Excel add-in. And so that really allows you to send your data directly. And this is not actually damaged, but it's a very complex template, which is why I was showing that reading error. And again, it's an Excel file. But I just want to show very quickly that using this tab, I can connect to my Argus Enterprise. I can copy and paste the information I want into this template, and then I can send it directly to AE. So if I actually connected this, I could fill this out and then send it to Argus Enterprise. And so as an appraiser, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this income statement. I'm going to audit everything, look at the trends. I might make my own predictions in this right-hand column. And then at the very end, I'm going to just filter out only the items I want, copy and paste it into this Excel template, and upload it into Argus. So you can imagine an Argus model that would typically take 1 to 2 or 3 days to create. Using this process, you can get it done in less than an hour. So we're going to fill in that template. We're going to send the data to the cloud. So I'm just linked the Argus cloud, right? And that's opening right here. And then once the data is actually sent into the model, we're going to link the model itself. So again, that same link to the Argus cloud, as well as the actual Argus file itself. If you just wanted to open it on your desktop app without having to go through the cloud, which just opened up on this other screen, then I could open this up in Argus Enterprise if I wanted as well. Once we finish the Argus model, or the appraiser finished the Argus model, we're going to go through the valuation process. So we're going to deliver all the data to the appraiser, schedule the inspection, get the ETA. And then once the appraisal is reviewed and received, we're going to review the draft. If that's approved, we're going to go ahead and attach that through this task card, which will also sync it and link it into the data room. Once we've received the valuation, we're going to then run our post-valuation process, which is producing data artifacts similar to before, but this time we're going to run it on top of the appraisal, right? So if I just jump into this last task card here and open up the Excel file and show you what it looks like, and just give it 1 second. We'll close out these additional tabs here. I can actually open it directly from here as well. So this is a valuation summary. Now this is using the Inveniam standard valuation summary template. So if your client doesn't like these colors or this formatting, right, this is completely customizable. And again, each one of these data points, if I hover over it, you're going to see that link kind of pop up. And if I just click on one of them, again, it's going to open up that AI Assist URL, and it's going to snap directly to the data point that I clicked on, in this case, total gross income, and then it's going to open up the appraisal itself, snap directly to the page and the data point, which you're going to see here in just a second. So again, it's opening the document, it's showing all the data points that were extracted, and then it's going to jump to this one here in just a sec. While we're waiting on this, I'm going to jump back to the valuation summary just for 1 second. Again, this is totally customizable for the client, whatever suits their business needs. One of the major advantages of having all of your data in an Excel rather than a 200-page PDF is I can use it immediately, right? So if I'm an asset owner, if I'm a fund manager, the first thing I'm doing is I'm copying all my sales comps for every single asset I'm getting a value on, and I'm going to create my own index. And that way I'm going to have a moving index over time, showing the history of sales comparables. And the best part about this technology is if I copy and paste that data like I just did, the hyperlinks travel, right? So I can click on that data point that I just copied and pasted, and it's going to go back to AI Assist, and it's going to show me the audit trail. So as a fund manager, I can copy and paste this data into any database I want, and I can still audit it at the place that I prefer to. And then I'm just going to jump back into the system, and that really concludes it, right? So we've received our valuation, we've received all of our data elements for the valuation, and this process will repeat on a recurring basis, either monthly or quarterly, depending again on the owner's business needs. But that really concludes the tour of Inveniam and our AI Assist technology. So I'll open it up to see if there's any questions, comments, or anything else that I can dig into.
Scott, that was incredible. Thank you for the demo. Mike and Elaine, if you want to just add any comments or thoughts on that, because it was a lot to digest.
Yeah, I can jump in. So I guess what I would say here is just bringing this back, I guess, to the upper level. So what Scott just went through there is really kind of the mechanics of how we get this data compiled into one place, really serve that over to valuation agents, which makes their life much easier, and then essentially serve that data into valuation tools such as Argus, Altus, and also potentially inform tokenized assets. So this is sort of the base layer to establish price discovery, right? If you want to understand the value of a public equity, we have the Edgar database, we have Yahoo Finance, and market participants can go to these places to understand the state of the assets. Inveniam is a distributed sort of Edgar database where if you own these assets, you can permission people into those folders. You're not going to give away your rent roll or anything like that. You're going to permission certain documents that somebody could analyze, and that allows people to understand the state of that asset, price the asset, and that informs secondary trading.
Elaine, you're muted, so if you don't mind just unmuting yourself, I'd love to get your thoughts and comments as well. It won't unmute you. I'm going to see if I can add this other stream here. How about now?
Can you hear me now?
We can. Hi, Elaine.
I just wanted to add, just for that demo, greater transparency into the asset valuation, because you can trace every single valuation model input into a golden source, right? So the ability to audit and trace creates that transparency with one click, right, through that demonstration. And that's incredibly valuable, right, because it streamlines the overall valuation process for our clients and makes things a lot more efficient, cost effective and transparent. So it's hugely and massively life-changing, I think, for clients.
Thank you for that. Tom was kind enough to put some comments on here. So anyone that's watching, if you want to ask questions or comments, you can just put them in the comment section on YouTube and or LinkedIn, and we'll be able to see those and then bring them up on screen. So Tom says here, for Michael's overview to Elaine's insights, and in watching the demo, I'm wondering if Michael can speak to what feels a larger plan to make private assets more liquid. What types of platforms would tokenize funds? I'm going to mute my thing in front of me here, but tokenize and on their regulatory hurdles today. So thoughts on that, Mike or Elaine?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for that, Tom. So I would say that valuation as a service is really the sort of base layer for this establishing price discovery of private market assets. Inveniam has an ecosystem that we're building. So we have a tokenization partner, and we also have partnerships with regulated ATSs. So Oasis Pro Market is one of these. Rialto Markets is another one. These are SEC registered, FINRA registered alternative trading systems, broker dealers that can enable the secondary trading of these assets. So everything is in full compliance. I would say there's no real regulatory challenges with these right now. These are all securities, so we only deal with securities. We work with the regulators as well as our partners, and so they follow all of the existing securities laws.
Elaine, do you want to add anything to that? And Devin, thank you for the comment. That was great. It was fantastic. Xavier's got a bit of an echo, but hopefully we can get that solved. And Elaine, do you want to add anything to what Tom's question?
The only other thing that I want to add is, and I think I'm repeating myself slightly, is that with blockchain technology, the ability to credentialize and secure data in a secure ecosystem and facilitating that valuation process, you are creating that greater transparency and therefore options for liquidity, right? So that transparency is the key part to that.
Great stuff. I'm just going to go around here unless anyone's got any more questions or comments they want to put on the comments section. Scott, I'm going to start with you and just give everyone a last word, 30 to 60 seconds. Anything else you want to add or share, Scott?
Yeah, the last thing I would add is, Inveniam is very focused on the end game, right? Tokenized assets trading on the blockchain. But we're also very focused on the value that we're delivering today. And that value is, very measurable by time and money, right? And so when we're talking about appraisals, an appraisal on a complex asset, a shopping mall or an office or industrial park, that can take upwards of 2 to 3 months, just because of how complex the data is, how much time it takes for someone to manually look at all these documents, type in the information, and then by the time they're done, they have an updated document, and they need to update everything once again, right? So with valuation as a service, we have helped appraisers perform valuations on assets that would typically take 2 to 3 months in the time span of 1 to 3 weeks. So it's a dramatic time savings. Appraisers love it because they can work on a lot more appraisals. Asset owners love it because they're not waiting around on their appraisals, and then they can actually dive through the appraisal and see exactly where the appraiser got everything. So we're very focused on the end state, but we're also very focused on the value that we're delivering to the marketplace today.
Scott, I think this is going to be for you. It says here, in watching the demo, can you explain what you mean by quote unquote anchoring data to the blockchain? Is this how it is verified?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we anchor data to the blockchain, again, what we're anchoring is that checksum. So that digital fingerprint identifier is what's getting anchored to the blockchain. So if you're an appraiser, before you begin your underwriting process, you might want to know that all of these documents are in fact the golden copy. So you can actually, quote unquote, verify the document. What that means is essentially Inveniam will reprocess the document. It's going to regenerate the checksum. And then it's going to take that checksum, it's going to go check the blockchains, and if everything checks out, that's how you're going to know that your document is verified. And if something has been changed at the pixelated level, again, you're going to get that change detected notification, and then that's going to notify the responsible party to go in and investigate. Did I explain that clearly, or?
I think so. And Tom, thank you for the question there. If you don't mind me asking a question, and Scott, this might be for you, but if anybody wants to jump in, can you speak a little bit more about the AI assist? Because that seems like just a phenomenal and fascinating tool.
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So this started over a year ago when we started trying to investigate AI technology to extract documents and data out of documents. We didn't really find anything that worked for what we wanted. The biggest challenge in private markets is there's no one form, right? Owners are going to have their data in whatever format they want. And by the way, just because you have one standard lease doesn't mean they're all going to be the same. One might be a scanned version with coffee stains sideways, right? And AI technologies today can't really process that. So the first thing that we focused on for AI Assist was two things. Data extraction, so getting the extractions done correctly, no matter the form of the document or the data itself, and then preserving those links. I believe today we've perfected those technologies, and we've begun the process of integrating artificial intelligence. So as we actually do all of this, the system itself learns, and then it's going to start suggesting things and get smarter and smarter over time. So something that used to take several weeks with today's technology takes less than a day, to tomorrow's technology is going to take minutes to seconds.
Wow. Again, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in here to this Valuation as a Service powered by Inveniam webinar. We appreciate you joining us. If you've got any questions or comments, just put them in the comment section. We'll be more than happy to get to those. We were going to last words here for 30 to 60 seconds. So Elaine, we'll go to you. Anything else you want to add or share, please?
Regardless of whether a manager values their assets internally or they use an outside valuation firm, there is still a need to manage data, right? And as I mentioned before, data management is a big challenge for managers generally, and therefore also creates the biggest opportunity for us here. So adopting digital solutions to transform such a core function, such as valuations, creating the auditability, creating the opportunity to ramp up the frequency is a huge opportunity for managers.
Thank you for that, Elaine. Michael, will give you the last word. And I think the most obvious thing is people saying, hey, how do I get more information? Where can they do that as well?
Sure. Yeah, no, I would just echo what Elaine's saying and also what Scott said earlier about our grand vision, obviously, is to make these assets more liquid and get them trading. But the efficiencies are really with valuation service. You know, my background is commercial real estate accounting, finance. So I actually came to Inveniam just by seeing all of the efficiency that can come to that valuation process. It used to take 4 or 5 months to go through, an annual appraisal for 100 assets or so, keeping these assets sale ready, limiting that kind of due diligence process, 3 to 6 due diligence when you're bringing an asset to market. So efficiencies are really critical here. If anyone wants to reach out to Inveniam, they can contact myself directly. I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach me at mnato@inveniam.io, or you can come to our website as well.
Yeah, just go to inveniam.io if you want more information. And please, of course, share this webinar. Just some really, really great content and information today. So please share it with friends of yours and family. And to all three of you, we really appreciate the insight and your time. Hopefully we'll do this again, okay?
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.